curve, did not have all the information, and put out a flyer saying that a bunch of stuff was going to happen that was not, and had an incorrect timeline that hopefully did not raise too much heartache or extra work for the county staff. To clarify that, I appreciate them working with myself and the alderman from Ward 1 and 3 and getting those items clarified, in particular the removal of the on-street parking. I'm sure you'll cover part of that in your discussions tonight. So I just want to thank you for all the hard work you guys have done to this, and my apologies for any extra work that may have come about of that flyer with the wrong information on it.
Also want to thank you, Mayor. Also want to mention that we are recording this so that we can post this for future, and for neighbors that weren't able to tune into this can listen to it. We'll try to get this up on the county website as well as the Baldwin website so that people can listen to the good information that will be shared here this evening and the questions. I've also been told that if you don't want to ask a question, but you still have a question, you can type it in, and we've got a Q&A box, and folks from the Public Works will be able to answer either your question in real time or after this meeting, if that's the same instructions that I've been given. So that's available to anybody that wants to talk and have questions answered. So without further ado, I guess I'll turn this over to Pam. You want to start? However
Sure.
You guys want to do this.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you very much, Councilman. I appreciate it. First of all, I did want to reiterate what Councilman Harder said. We are recording this meeting. I just started that a few moments ago so that we can post this at a later date so everyone can get the information if they weren't able to join us tonight. Beyond that, I'd like to thank everyone who is attending, both residents as well as county staff, Councilman Harder, Mayor Pogue. I am keeping an eye out for Mayor Clements. I haven't seen him join in yet, but if I do, I will point that out to everyone. Otherwise, beyond those introductions, I'd like to turn it over to our project manager in the engineering group of the Project Development Division in the Department of Transportation, Greg Marshall. He's got a brief introduction of the project that he'd like to walk through for everyone, kind of take us from one end of the corridor to another, and hopefully clear up any confusion and share the information with everyone about the goals of the project. So Greg, if you're ready, you are able to take over and get us started.
Okay, thanks, Pam. Again, welcome everybody to this meeting. I'm going to share my screen here in just a minute to pull up concept plan for the Baxter Road project. And I'd like to mention too that Karen Jones is a member of our team. She's the lead person on this project, and she is going to be monitoring the chat box and helping answer questions. Anything that we can answer right away will get answered. And anything else, we'll be looking into getting information back. We will also post on the county's website where we have this information for this project posted. We will go ahead and compile all of the questions and answers so that way anybody can look up those after the meeting. And as you see, hopefully on my screen, you see that I have my contact information and the area engineer's contact information if you'd like to reach out to us. And we would be happy to get back to you about anything on this project. We also have members from our right-of-way group and members from engineering development that'll be available for questions tonight. So this Baxter Road project is, so of course, St. Louis County Department of Transportation and Public Works, we are planning to improve the Baxter Road from Clayton to Manchester Road. And the existing roadway pavement is currently classified to be a moderate to severe stage of deterioration. So we want to improve this roadway. We want to improve it with a surface that allows for better drainage and is safer for driving and also for pedestrians and bicyclists. And similarly, the sidewalks need improvements due to their deterioration. They also need to be made safer for pedestrians and for those with sight and or mobility impairments. So in order to do this work, this project will include new pavement, a new pavement driving surface, new sidewalks, and a 10-foot shared use path, and also improvements to the traffic signals. And we're glad to say that this project is also supported by the City of Baldwin and the City of Manchester. And also want to mention that the City of Baldwin is going to be starting construction on their Holloway Road project later this year. They will be providing resurfacing of the road pavement and providing sidewalk and pedestrian improvements. And these two projects will create a much improved vehicle, pedestrian, and bicycle network for this area. So we first started working on this project in 2014 when we first applied for federal funds. And it wasn't until 2016 when the county added the shared use path to Baxter Road that we were awarded funds for this project. Without the shared use path along this corridor, the project would not have been selected to receive federal funding. And adding this shared use path to the project also fits in with the county's action plan for walking and biking. And this action plan we have on our website, and we'll also post it in the chat box for anybody to look up that action plan. We'll also go ahead and add in the chat area just a reminder for everybody the link to the county's website for information about this project in general. So hopefully that makes it easier for everybody to get up-to-date information. You can check back later. Like I said, we'll post a Q&A on there and other updated information. And to go ahead and start with, since I'm talking about the shared use path, so we are adding the 10-foot wide shared use path on basically the east side of the road on Baxter Road. And we did do some research into this to determine what the best situation was for adding this, the shared use path. And it was a reduced impact to the residents along Baxter Road, and it also, there was less impact to driveways that were on the other side of the road. There's also coordination with utilities along the road. It made it a better fit for this project to have one 10-foot wide shared use path on the east side of the road for this project. And it still came with its challenges, but I think it is the best situation for this project that we laid it out this way. And so I'll go into how we, or some of the things that we're doing on this project. And so starting at the Clayton and Baxter Road intersection.
Hey, Greg, can I interrupt you real quick? Were
Yeah.
you going to share the visual? Because we're not seeing anything yet.
Oh, you're not.
No,
Right.
sorry. I didn't know that you weren't aware of that. But just before you got too far into the corridor, I wanted to make sure we could get that visual aid up for everyone so they can follow along as we travel down Baxter Road. I did turn the presenter privileges over to you. So yeah, there we go. We can see it.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
So starting at Clayton Road, you see, you definitely see the roadway resurfacing that will take place, and we will be getting new sidewalks and some of the islands at the intersection.
Greg, if I might jump in too, for those that have a difficult time seeing the graphic, if you, on WebEx, if you click on the screen and to the left, you will see a magnifying glass with a plus in it and a minus. If you press the plus, it will get larger for you. So you'll be able to follow along with what Greg is saying, I think, with more visual ease.
That's right.
Thanks, Stephanie. I
Thank
didn't
you.
realize they wouldn't be seeing it at the same level I am. So the islands at the intersection will be replaced, and we'll be getting, this will improve the ability for pedestrians, bicyclists to cross the intersection, and then new sidewalks, new curb ramps throughout this section of road. And as we go south, So this section of Baxter Road, it's the existing sidewalks are getting removed and replaced with sidewalk that has appropriate slopes and good transitions at intersections and at driveways, and has good width for all users of the sidewalk. And this section where we were not able to fit in the shared use path. And so as we get down here, we're getting closer to the intersection with Holloway. So this is where, at this intersection, we will be upgrading pedestrian signal equipment and also improving the islands there and improving curb ramps and sidewalks. And this is shown on the screen here with the yellow. That's the start of the 10-foot wide shared use path. So as you can see, it's wider and will extend toward the houses there, and so it will impact some of the yards. And there are some grade differences, some elevation differences at this intersection because of this, at this right turn lane. And so we did have some challenges to get everything to work, to get everything in a good condition for pedestrians, bicyclists, and also for vehicles. And so, but through the process of working with our engineering team, we were able to come up with what we feel is a very good design that works the best for the residents and also for everybody who'll be using the road and the sidewalk. And as we go south,
Greg, this is Mark Harder.
Sure.
That yellow and green space, that's also a driving lane as well, correct? That's a shared space, or is that a path?
it's
A paved path?
It's a 10-foot wide concrete paved path that's for pedestrians, bicyclists, and other modes of travel in that way. It's not designed for shared use with motorized like vehicles. I mean, motorized wheelchairs and things of that nature would, of course.
But the gray area is still the 2 lanes of street traffic, correct? One in each direction?
Correct. The gray area is the 2 lanes of street pavement.
And that's the way it currently is now?
Yes.
In width?
And width, yes. This area is not being affected by, is not being changed in width at all in this area.
Okay,
So
so
everything,
the green and yellow will have to be achieved easements and paths to create that.
correct. Where we do impact the residential properties on that side, we will have to get easements in order to make that happen.
Okay, thank you.
Greg, if I can jump in just to clarify too for residents, since there is a larger green space, that green space, as opposed to people's backyards, will be the predominant source of the additional space for this path. Is that true?
The existing green space?
Yes.
Yes, right. That's exactly right. So yeah, there is a larger green space on the east side of the road compared to the west side of the road to be able to fit this in. And so that's where it's all going to go, is in that space.
And great, while we're paused here, that's a good segue. A question came in through the chat box about someone was asking what the colors meant, the green and the yellow. So as we move through, we'll just want to clarify what the color coding means. And also, if I could ask any participants that are submitting questions in the chat box, if you could please send them so that everyone can see them. I've had a couple roll in that came to me privately, which I'm happy to pass along, but if you can put them in the chat box to everyone, then other residents can see if perhaps they had the same question, and we can make sure everyone gets the information. So just wanted to throw that out there if you would. Thank you, Greg.
Yeah, so the green color coding on the shared use path is where there's a little bit additional space between the shared use path and the existing curb line. So there's a little bit of a buffer, a little bit more of a buffer space. And the yellow is where there is not as much space between the shared use path and the curb. It could be, let me scroll up a little bit more. It should. So reduce buffer to 4 feet to avoid impacts to fences. So, I mean, as this is noted, there's where as much as we could, we adjusted the location of the shared use path to reduce impacts to the neighbors out there. So in some areas it meant that we did get a little bit closer to the road. And so, but in areas where we did have more space and still did not impact the fence, we were able to move that shared use path further away. And also with the layout of the shared use path, we did have to take into account the utility poles and other utilities that are out there. So we did our best to coordinate with the utilities, so that way we were able to get them located or relocated so that they're not in the shared use path, and also with minimal impact or no impact to the residents. We did not want to relocate the utility poles out of the shared use path only to have them end up in backyards. So we did everything we could to minimize any impact to residents from the utilities as well. So as we're going further south here, we get into, which I just passed some of the area where there is the on-street parking, and so as Councilman Harder mentioned, or not, I'm sorry, as Mayor mentioned, there were some discussions about the parking situation out here, and there are some areas. Well, first I'll mention all of the existing parking will be retained. There will not be any loss of parking. There will, however, be a couple areas where the parking shoulder width is reduced. There's many areas where there's 12-foot wide parking shoulders now that will be, and some of those areas will be reduced to 8 feet wide. But I mean, an 8-foot wide shoulder is the standard width for on-street parking. So there is no loss of any of the parking through there, and it's not along the whole roadway. So as we go down through here, and I guess I'll bring up the point. There's some storm sewer inlets along the road that will end up being impacted with the shared use trail. We want to make sure that everything gets constructed safely for anybody who will use the shared use path. So there will be some modifications to some of the inlets, but we'll also make sure that all the drainage works properly on the roadway and on the shared use path. And
Greg, this is Mark again. There was some confusion over that striped area that you mentioned that no one will lose their parking, but that they would temporarily lose it during construction. Is that still the case? And when would that be restored if that's the case?
I don't know the exact process for how all of that will take place, but so I'll coordinate with our construction division and get a better answer to this. But what I could say now is that really during the process when we're doing the milling and then the resurfacing project, in between those stages, after they do the milling, those lanes should be able to be opened back up for regular use. It would just only be it would only be blocked while the work is going on for the milling and resurfacing. Or if there could be areas that have repairs, street repairs, base repairs that would need to take place. So of course, in those areas where they're doing repairs, we have to wait for the repairs to be completed before anybody can park in those areas. But I believe they would just it'd be pretty short-term impacts on the actual roadway for just during the milling and then the resurfacing stages. But I'll coordinate and get better information from our construction division to make sure that if there's any areas that they see would be any different than that. But hopefully, does that make sense? Or
Yes, thanks, Greg.
okay. Oh, sorry, my back on sheet 1. Not sure why this is progressing so slowly, but apologize. Okay, as we get further south on Baxter Road, as we're going away from Holloway, it's generally the same layout where we're replacing the sidewalk on the west side of the road with new sidewalk that a new improved sidewalk that has better slopes and better surface for everybody using it. And then on the east side has the shared use path, where again it has the green areas is where it's a little bit further away from the existing roadway, and then the yellow it gets a little bit closer to the road. And there is a section of Baxter where the road goes over a creek. And so we have an existing bridge. It's a two lanes of driving pavement, and it has 2 shoulders. And in this area, the shared use path is going to transition from being behind the curb to being on the bridge. And then, so we do want to provide some safety, some additional safety between the shared use path users and the vehicles. And so we'll have like a short like barrier curb that gets installed along the bridge. And there'll be about 5 feet of separation between the shared use path and the vehicles. So and as you go south from the bridge, it'll transition back behind the curb, and then we'll continue south. And then as you get to Anderson Drive, which is the signalized intersection at the shopping center, this is where the shared use path will end, and then it will transition to having standard sidewalk behind the curb, and then we'll have striped bike lanes on the pavement as you go down to Manchester. And we have existing 5 lanes of pavement through there, and then we have enough space to, when we resurface the road, we'll restripe it for 5 lanes plus stripe the bike lanes in there. So there will be no loss of driving lanes. And at this intersection, we'll also do signal improvements, pedestrian and curb ramp improvements, and
Greg, let me ask for those of us that live along this corridor and travel this every day. I know that the signal at Anderson almost functions like a pre-timed signal, so you can be waiting there when no cars are there coming out of Deerberg's or the other shopping center. So this signal will be enhanced so that it's captures what's actually happening in the field with cars present. and less delay at the signal waiting for the lights to turn green?
My understanding is that this intersection will get improvements for the vehicular traffic and also for the pedestrians that use it. I don't know exactly what the specific improvements are, but with the knowledge of the fact that we are upgrading it for all the vehicular traffic at that intersection as well, those are the concerns that we would take into account when we're doing those improvements. We would want to make sure that this functions more accurately for the traffic that is there for the right times of day. And but I will look into that and get more specific information to follow up on that. And we'll get that information posted to say specifically what is getting changed that will improve this situation. So that really is it took a little bit longer than I realized it would take to get down from Clayton to Manchester. I don't know if there's any other questions that anybody would have about anything else that was mentioned.
Greg, this is Mayor Pogue. I have a question.
Yes.
You mentioned that some of the parking lanes would be reduced down to 8 foot. Do you know exactly what sections those are? Would you be able to show those on the drawing? Or has that been finalized yet?
Yeah, it's been finalized. I'm going to switch over to striping plan for this project. And so it is an area between Hill Trail, and it's actually south of Hill Trail down to, I'm sorry, it's Greenmore. Let's see here. Oops. Okay, south of Greenmore on it'd be the west side of the road. Let me rotate this. So in this section of road south of Greenmore is, or actually it's at Shady Meadows. Apologize, I don't. So on the east side of the road where the shared use path is going in, we are shifting the curb over a little bit. And so to get two 12-foot lanes in south of Shady Meadows, that is where we'd have to reduce the parking shoulder from 12 feet to 8 feet. And as you go south and then go around that curve and then at Forest Leaf. So from Greenmore to Forest Leaf is where it's reduced to 8 feet, and then it transitions back out to 12 feet wide as you go south of Forest Leaf.
All right. Thank you very much for the clarification on that.
You're welcome.
Hey, Greg, I had a question roll in here on the chat box and it just came to me, so I want to make sure to relay it to you. Can you hop back over to the map that you were on previously and touch briefly on the section between Shady Meadow and Clear Meadow? We have a resident who is having some trouble getting on the meeting, and if it won't take too long, we could just hop over there and just review what, I don't recall what was happening in that section, so just see if we can touch on it.
Okay. Oops, what happened?
Too many windows open.
Apparently. Didn't. So here at the south end of that stretch at Clear Meadows, we have the sidewalk on the west side is getting upgraded to 5 feet wide sidewalk where we're able to do that. And then on the east side has the 10-foot wide shared use path. And in that section, we do have a little bit more buffer space between the shared use path and the curb. And all the roadway pavement through here is getting resurfaced. And the, as I just mentioned with the parking, this area, the existing parking shoulder will remain the same, doesn't even get reduced in width. And then as you, then Forest Leaf is just north of Clear Meadows, and that's where the shared use path, that's where we have to bump in the curb a little bit into the roadway, so that way we can avoid impacting the residents. And so the shared use path will be closer to the curb there, and we will have reduced parking shoulder down to 8 feet in that area as you go north. And then I'm not sure what I did to make this strip map such a large file that it's moving so slowly.
Greg, while you're waiting for that, can you go over the timeline for this project in the next, 2 years, or what you're looking at, the major touch points for the next 2 years?
Yeah, so the schedule right now is we're in the process of getting this project ready for it's called a PS&E submittal to MoDOT, or plan specifications and estimates. We'll get, we are wrapping up final construction plans for this, and then once we submit to MoDOT and then get their approval of our construction plans and cost estimate, then we will go out to bid for this project later this year. And while this is happening, we are currently working with getting appraisals, and we'll be negotiating with the residents out there for any of the easements that we need on the project. And so these two processes will be going together. And once we get approval of the construction plans and get all of the easements that are needed, then we would be able to advertise for the project and select a contractor and then award the project. And then construction would be planned to start in the spring next year. And I should know the length of time for the overall project. Don't remember that right off the top of my head. I can maybe, if Karen would be able to maybe look up the time frame for that length of time and could get that posted.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
can
so we
put
would-
that in the chat section too. So we can also make sure that that is clearly relayed on the website as well.
Yeah, because I think we just mentioned like starting construction next year, but we don't actually, I'm not sure if we do give that time frame for construction.
Mhm.
So we'll get that.
Yep.
So if construction starts in spring of next year, do you anticipate it would be finished by December, November? What's your estimate? You don't have to, we won't hold you to it.
Councilman Harder, I'm going to step in for this one. If this was a standard resurfacing project, it would most certainly be done within 12 months. With the addition of full corridor sidewalk, shared use path, and the retaining walls, it is possible that it would go into the following year. We'll talk to our construction group to get a better feel on that. But this may be, it's possible this would be a multi-year project as we're digging in. That's usually a decision that, it's not really a decision, it's an assessment that's done as we finalize the plans, which is the step we're at now. So we have to talk to our construction group and work through that process before giving a final answer. That's kind of where we're at.
But when you do these kind of projects, you start in the easements and work your way into the middle of the street. So for inconvenience, a lot of the work could be done on the shoulder and the bike paths and utilities first before you ever get into changing the street. Is that the way
Yes,
you
sir.
do it?
That's typically the way these projects are approached, is the concrete work adjacent comes first. At the very least, the curb lines and other base of the pavement needs to be repaired before the pavement is overlaid. And I fully expect that that's likely in this case. You bring up a valid point, though. We could look at setting the contract up to ensure that it's paved before the end of next year, even if the adjacent sidewalk and paths aren't necessarily completed. We can look at that.
Would I be correct in assuming that all of this work will be done during the day and there will be no night work due to the proximity of residential houses?
That is usually the case when we're in a residential area. There are cases where we can't get material, though. Super pave is a material that generally is only produced at night and at discount, I suppose I should say. But we generally would keep a residential area like this. We'd make arrangements to do that work during the day, but we hadn't had that conversation either yet internally.
Okay, thank you.
Greg or Joe, is there a area in the region that will be a staging area that you'll have to acquire for materials and equipment and parking and so on? Where would that be?
So that is something that we leave to our contractor. It is very, for us, in most cases, it's very difficult for us to know where the contractor will want to stage, because the contractor has the freedom to approach our projects in the way they can put them together most effectively to have a successful bid. So we leave them flexibility. They will acquire space as they need it by bartering with someone who they think they can get the space from if they think they need it. So in most cases on a resurfacing project or maintenance project, that isn't something that the DOT acquires in advance. There are exceptions to that, but this isn't one of those exceptions.
Would it be safe to say that they would acquire like shopping center property at either end of this project, maybe?
That would be
anywhere along
typical.
the line?
Yeah, typically they will approach businesses with underutilized parking lots and things like that. Somebody who owns a big open field that happens to be in close proximity. But there are times where they don't stage a whole lot of equipment at all on the site for a prolonged period. So depending on where that particular contractor is located, they could have a yard that's close by and they don't have to worry about it.
And Mark, I do think that although it might be with the business specific or with the city of Chesterfield, I know that where there used to be that gym up at Baxter and Clayton is out of business. And so that is some parking lot space there. I think that is a possibility until they redevelop.
Hey, Joe, we've had a couple of questions roll in where people were asking if this was going to be voted on or if the project was a done deal. Would you want to touch on that, or if not, I can add to that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So at this point, this meeting is informational. The design is the design that we hope to proceed with. At this point, if we chose, for example, not to install the multi-use path, we would not be able to do the project. We would turn money back to federal government because that's their money is the only thing that enabled us to proceed with this project. They're covering quite a bit of the price tag. So I can't say it's there is an opportunity to not do the project, but there is not much opportunity to change the project.
And I would like to add, as a resident who lives off Shady Meadows, you know, I'm, yes, the director of the department, but I live off Shady Meadows with this road as my backyard, and I can sympathize with everybody that through a project process, it can be very difficult. But you and I think can agree that this road has needed resurfacing for many years, and we've tried several times to get funding to do it. And I'm super excited that we will have a road that we've been in dire need of for quite a while, with some of the what I'm going to term bells and whistles that other communities have, and that we could use to get to one of our greatest gems in Baldwin, and that's the North Point Pool and the golf course area. So super excited, and if you can bear with us, we'd like to take this project through to a great conclusion.
And Stephanie, just to follow up, I've had a couple of things in the chat here about residents asking if they can vote on this. And I guess the short answer is no, but I guess I would defer to the answers that you and Joe just gave about the process and how we can proceed with the project. So the short answer is that no, residents will not be voting on this project, but the project will have to go through the approval of our council to get to the advertising stage. So there are certainly oversights in place for the project, but there will not be a public vote per se. So just wanted to clarify that for the folks that have asked.
Stephanie, could you reiterate, if you haven't already, the funding? You said federal funding. Is this an 80-20? And what are the actual dollars for this project from the 80-20 standpoint, if that's the ratio?
Truthfully, Mark, I have to defer to my staff on the cost and the split. Less and less do we have the opportunity to do an 80-20, so I'd be surprised if we were fortunate enough to have only put up 20% on this job, but let me turn it over to Pam.
Yes, and I'll have to defer. I will have to verify that. Stephanie, I'll be honest, because it used to be the 80-20 was the norm, and it's veered away from that in more recent years. So I don't want to give incorrect information. So we will include that high level breakdown in the project information.
But the feds are picking up the majority of this project, whatever that ratio is.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
They're picking up at least 50%, and we try to maximize that.
Yeah, the federal government is contributing $2.8 million, which includes a lot of our construction administration costs. In pure construction, they're covering a little over $2.5 million.
And the county is covering.
Yeah, the total project estimate as it stands right now is roughly $3.6 million.
Okay. So about 25-75 maybe.
Yeah, about 70-30.
Okay.
And just to reiterate for everyone, I've had a couple of folks ask if they've got additional concerns and they want to follow up with someone. And I believe that Adam Spector, our area engineer, has been our public point of contact for this project, and his information is on the project website. So I would encourage people that would like to reach out either for more information or to share more concerns or thoughts or feedback to please reach out to Adam, and he will collect all of that information and get it to the right person on the project team so that we can address it.
I should have been more clear, Mr. Harder, about 70-30 pure construction, but when you consider our construction administration, yeah, it's about, we're covering about 22-23%, and the rest of it's federal.
Any other questions for our project-specific managers here and and or the mayor or myself as we go through this the next few minutes.
I do have one more question. We kind of talked about staging and that. Do you typically restrict your contractors from storing any material or equipment in the residential side streets, or do you require them to store them in the construction zone?
I don't,
That would be a question I have to work with my construction staff on. I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but I don't want to give you bad information.
That's a fair response.
So Mayor, that will be yet one question, and for any in the chat box that, you know, have been posted and any additional questions that we discussed or things that we discussed, we will make sure that we post those, the questions and the answers on the website so everybody can, you know, if they want to go over what we talked about the cost of the project or the width of the parking space or, you know, storage of equipment during the project, we will have those answers on the web that anybody can refer to throughout the project process.
Stephanie, has there been a traffic study done on this and any consulting information that was done on this project to talk about, you know, bikes and cars sharing a very limited space and things like that? Is there any information on that?
To my knowledge, we didn't do a specific traffic study. This project actually started as a resurfacing project only, and then we had to consider making the ADA accommodations because we had, we're trying to acquire federal funds, and it became apparent that we needed to up that game in order to be successful by completing the multi-use path that is a direct result of the effort through our action plan for walking and biking. So in terms of, you know, whether or not there's X number of bicyclists or X number of pedestrians, you know, versus however many cars, no, not a specific study. We believe that we have enough capacity from a road perspective not to have to adjust the number of lanes. They're fine. In terms of what people see, because I see it every day, I use the sidewalks frequently. I think this is a when you build it, they will come type thing. There are bicyclists out there. I think there is a number of children and other people that tend to use the sidewalk that's not wide enough to do so. So I think this is an opportunity. I think you'll see more traffic, more people able to go to the, what we lovingly refer in my family to the Orange Park, or the pool or whatever using this path. But long answer to your question, and I'm sorry about that, but no, not specifically. We just know based on other things that we've done, what elements seemed important to bring to this community.
Stephanie, will there be any sewers relocated or water runoff issues, or will those just be modified in place and what's there is good enough for the road as it is?
I will turn that over to
Yeah.
Greg. Greg, can you answer that?
yes, it's basically going to be modified in place the storm sewers. It was shown on some of the plan sheets where there's existing curb inlets that are going to be converted to a different kind of curb inlet, so that way the shared use path can be constructed across it and everything would fit in safely. The roadway surfacing that's going to go in is going to be sloped properly so that we get good drainage off of the road, and that it will go to the curb inlets. And yeah, so the goal and expectation of this project is that minor items will be improved to make the drainage situation better, but there will be no big reconstruction of storm sewers or things of that nature that will be part of the project.
Any other questions that anybody may have? I know that this has gone on almost an hour now, and I appreciate everybody being part of this, this discussion. I hope everybody gets their questions answered, and our staff will do everything they can to get your questions answered, either now or in the near future.
Right. Yes, I believe Karen Jones was copying all the questions that came in through the chat box into a document so that we can have a record of them to post later on. If for some reason your question was missed, I do apologize. Please, again, reach out to our area engineer, Adam Spector, and he will get your question to the right person to get you the information you are looking for.
Has the letters gone out for the acquisition of easements? Has that been distributed
John,
to residents?
I can answer that. Councilman,
John.
the letters, we verified ownership on parcels that are affected on that project. The appraisers have been sending out, they will be sending out, not all residents have been contacted, a letter stating that he will be on that project and they will have the ability to meet with him if they wish. So that's where we're at. We have verified ownership. Residents have been contacted for that. And the appraisers will be in contact with the residents prior to going to the project to look at what they need to value.
And just for the record, I saw a question to the chat box that is important to know that any resident where we're acquiring property rights will be compensated.
Correct. That is correct.
So that is, we're not asking for donations. We are offering compensation wherever we're impacting.
There
And
are.
that value,
Go ahead.
go ahead, sir.
There are a number of residents along there that have fences, both wooden and vinyl. If those fences are affected, will they be rebuilt and put back to the original condition or better?
Sir, typically we will pay replacement costs on any fences. On those fences, they're located on private property. We will compensate the residents accordingly for their fence, whatever type it is.
To answer your question, we don't rebuild them. What we've found over the years is that the resident from one to the next may want different materials, different companies installing them, etc. So we compensate and allow the resident to arrange for the replacement at a future date.
So then, Joe,
go ahead.
to that point, the next question on that subject was, do we compensate automatically, or do they need to take some form of action? And so, John, isn't that done through your section, John Eddington?
Yes, ma'am, that's done through our section. And then they will be contacted after we receive the appraisal from the third party appraiser that is doing the appraisals.
And so if the appraiser appraised the fence and there was a particular fence company that provided an estimate of cost to the resident, do they provide that to you, to the appraiser, or how does that work?
Yes, ma'am, it can work both ways. They can either give that information to the appraiser while he's there, or when we go visit them, or however we're going to, however the residents want to handle this, a certified mail or in-person meeting. As long as they provide us with information, we'll definitely look at it, and we'll send that to our. The county councilor may have to approve certain items, but we'll look at the fence, and yes, they will get their choice of who they wish to have their fence replaced by.
John, just to follow up to what we have you here, we have a resident who was concerned about losing some mature trees. Do we have compensation set aside for the loss of trees? Can you clarify on that a little bit?
Yes, ma'am. What we do is the appraiser will look at the trees and he'll place a value on it, and the residents can talk to them about the tree. And when we go meet with them, we'll present what the appraiser has concluded on value and discuss that with the residents at that time.
Thank you, John.
Okay, so I guess unless anybody has any more questions, we can wrap this up. And if you want to get back to any of the county employees that are on this call, you have their names here. And if you want to give them contact information where they can continue their conversation with any and all of you, if you want to revisit that before we end.
Pam, just one more thing. When you do get this recording all finalized and you're able to get it published, could you either send myself or Jim Link or City Administrator Eric Sturman the link, and we will definitely get our communications and marketing director to get it up on our website and social media.
Sure, will do. I think I've got your email. Stephanie, you have the mayor's email. Is that correct?
Yeah, I should.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
And I'll just say on behalf of the department, I appreciate everybody being with us tonight, asking us your questions, and you know, exhibiting patience through the project process. We all know how construction projects can go. We will do our best. My team will do their best, and expect the contractor to do their best to achieve a successful project as timely as possible with as minimal of impact as possible. I think you will love the end product, and we're super excited for you to join us in this journey to transform this area, and continue to reach out to us via our website, via our area engineer, with any questions you have throughout the project process.
Thank you,
Okay,
everyone. Again, we've been trying to track all the questions as they came in. We will get those answered as soon as possible and get the information posted. Again, if you don't see your question answered, please do reach out to Adam Spector. He is our contact on the project, and we will get you the information you need.
Pam, if you could stay on the call for a few minutes after this, so if somebody wants to give you a last minute question here, the rest of us, if you've gotten your questions answered, you can drop off the call. And
Yep.
I thank everybody for being here. I hope this was informative. And please let my office or the mayor's office know if you have any other questions going forward. And I really appreciate everybody being on this call. And if we need to have another one of these later on, that's possible too. So let us know. Thank you all. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll keep this running for a few more minutes to, if anyone wants to type in their questions, we will capture them here. Hey, John, if you're still on, I just got a question here from one of the residents. They want to know if they should meet with someone before they add a retaining wall to the back of their property close to the fence line. I guess I'm not sure what impact's going to be to that particular parcel. Would that be some, I'm sorry, go ahead.
We're more than willing to discuss any impact or improvement we'll have on their property if they want to contact our office, and whoever's assigned to that parcel will definitely contact them. If you get their name and number or email address, that'll be fine, and then we'll find out which parcel that's assigned to, and they will be contacted. We're more than willing to discuss that with them now, explain to them the effects.
Okay, John, I'll provide you with the resident's name.
Okay.
Yeah, Pam, this is Glenn.
Mhm.
Are you talking about Sunfield Place?
I don't have an address, I just have a name.
Okay, because the same question came into, was it Jansen? Sheila Jansen?
Yes, it is.
Yes. The construction limits throughout that area are very well defined, and when we did our walkthrough, as I recall, the fence had to come down and the impact to the backyard itself was very minimal. It was just enough to
Correct.
form the new sidewalk.
Correct. It looks like it's only about 2 feet inside the fence, all along the fence line, approximately. So it depends on where their construction is, but
Yeah, it's just enough to form the new sidewalk, so it's not going very far into their backyard. If they're at least 5 feet away, they should be good.
And maybe if they have some sort of a plan for the new retaining wall, we can compare that to the construction plans and get a better feel exactly for how it will all work together. So we'd be happy to look at that if that could get sent to me or Karen.
Greg, I believe we can just have the project rep contact them. This, it's a parcel 123, so we'll figure out who the project rep is and have them contact them and get the information and then get back to you about it.
Sounds great.
Okay.
That sounds good. Nancy, will you take care of that tomorrow?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ms. Katz, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, I've been trying to respond to your request in the chat room, in the chat section, but I'm not sure that they're getting through to you. You had been asking why your questions weren't getting answered, and I was trying to relay that that we're going to need to get some more information and talk to members of the project team before we can get back to you. I just wanted to make sure that you saw that information. Did you hear that?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Can you hear us?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but you have been ignoring me for a while, so I wasn't sure why.
Well,
I've reached out.
That's
Sam,
what
I've reached.
Sorry, go ahead.
I've spoken to Adam, and he was going to get back to me about how many trees they need to remove from my backyard and why. I had gotten a call initially from somebody else there. I've got his business card, and I'm very frustrated with all of this. It looks like my backyard is going to be cut. I'm on the corner, and so I'll lose both sides of my backyard, my gorgeous 15-foot trees in the back that are landscaped to give me privacy from the street. And I had mentioned to Adam that I saw a lot of accidents over the winter time and would call 911 and report them before even they were able to report them down on the street. And I don't want to see more traffic. I don't want to lose the trees. I don't want my property to be a construction zone for 2 years. And I can see you guys just kind of looking glazed over, and I'm not happy with that. I'm not getting information in a timely manner. Adam did not return my calls anymore. He told me all he does all day long is field complaints from people. That's his job. He's a customer service rep, and he writes grants. And I'm not happy that I'm in a situation now where you guys have 3.3 million is what he told me to spend, or 3.6 million is what you mentioned tonight. There's no study showing that this will be a good thing. There's no study that says that our neighbors want the construction on this corner. I personally don't think this would be a good thing. So until I'm convinced that this will be a good thing, I really don't want the aggravation and the nuisance of having this construction work in my backyard for what you said sounds like it could go on for a year or more. And the compensation that you're probably going to be willing to offer me today is not what I plan to sell this house for when I move out of here in 30 years. So I'm very bothered by the whole thing. I don't even think that the neighbors are as excited about it as you all are. So I'm not sure that this is a good thing, and I don't know how to stop it. Nobody's told me whether I can get a petition going with the neighbors. How has this been voted on? It wasn't voted on. Why are you doing this to the street?
Ms. Katz, I apologize if you haven't gotten the answers from our team in a timely manner that you've desired. But the road pavement itself, the roadway, is in dire need of pavement repair. So we look for ways to fund that. In this case, the federal government is helping with meeting the needs. Secondly, we have a complete streets ordinance, which was passed by our council back in 2014, I believe. That may have been 13. In any case, we're charged with looking for ways to improve pedestrian facilities throughout the county. When we find opportunities, we're charged with building them if it's feasible. Unfortunately, with pedestrian facilities, there's not really a study that can be done in most areas that's going to definitively tell you that bicyclists are going to come or that more pedestrians are going to start walking. It is much more anecdotal than that. But what we've seen is that once facilities are in place, they are typically used.
Well, that's not encouraging to me. I mentioned in the chat section my cousin Michael Katz, and I can get you the information. He was a bike rider. He was run over. He was in a bike path. He did die from his injuries from being hit by a motorist. I don't want to see more accidents. As it is, I was calling 911 in the winter when we had the ice storm and people were sliding through the traffic signals and hitting traffic signals, hitting other cars. It was not pleasant. And I guess if if the street pavement is in bad shape, although I've driven around a little bit more recently, and I think there are areas with more street problems than what I have behind my house. But if you feel that the street needs improving, that's different than adding a bike path, increasing the sidewalk size, taking away my backyard. I don't really want that type of change made right now. And I don't feel that the neighbors should have this forced upon them. I feel like you're inflicting this on me. It's not something I'm looking forward to. I don't want more traffic in my backyard. And so if you're thinking of this as a benefit to the neighborhood, then I don't know why you would be afraid to take it to a vote. If most neighbors feel like you do and not like I do, you should get your vote easily. From what I understand, 65% of the neighborhood does not want this going on. And I realize that you're not giving us a vote, but to have over half of us upset over it like I am and not want the construction and not want the additional traffic, I'm not sure that this is a good use of federal funds. Sorry. So that's why I was asking about a petition, a vote. And the other thing is, before pushing this on the residents who maybe don't want it, there's not really a clear indication of what you're wanting to do. I'm sure that I'll get some kind of an appraisal letter in the mail and you'll offer me some money. That does not mean that I want to sell. I get phone calls daily right now. The real estate market is extremely high. If I wanted to sell my property, I could have sold it yesterday or the day before to a real estate agent, and then I wouldn't have had to deal with construction in my backyard for 12 months.
Ms. Katz, right now the option for canceling the project really rests with the councilman. That is the avenue that you'd be looking at if the neighbors as well as yourself believe this project to be an error in our
And
programming process.
Can you give me his name and phone number, please?
Let's see, Mark Harder, and give me a second here.
Yeah. Yeah, while Joe's looking up the phone number, his first name is Mark, last name is Harder, Harder. And Joe, if you can't find the number, let me know and I can.
Yeah, I'm almost there.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it looks like Mr. Harder just signed off a few minutes ago, so.
I mean, I'm sure there are areas of West County that can use $3.6 million in improvements. I'm just not sure that what you're wanting to do in my backyard is what I would consider an improvement.
And ma'am, what I can also tell you is that we are desperately short countywide for providing what we believe is basic system maintenance and upgrades. But there is not an option to move this funding somewhere else. If we give up the funding, it is lost to the county. Just as a minor point of clarification. It's not that it gets to be spent somewhere else. It simply disappears from our coffers. I have the phone number here for Mr. Harder's executive assistant, Ann Gassel.
I'm ready.
I'm sorry, go on.
I just said I was ready. I wasn't sure if you were.
Yes, 314-615-5443.
And you said his assistant's name is what?
Ann Gassel, Gassel.
All right. I'm, I don't know whether there was more talk of this a year or two ago when you guys got the funding or wrote the grants, but I just wasn't a party to any of it. It never came to my attention until just recently. So I apologize.
That's understandable, ma'am. No, there's no reason to apologize.
No
Was
apology.
has there been any kind of meeting on this, or did you guys just decide to do it? And I'm curious how this got going.
In the funding application process, all the applications are publicly available for review and comment. But even at that point, and until we really got far into the details, we would never have been able to tell you how many trees might need to be removed or where there might need to be a retaining wall or elements like that. At the time we're acquiring funding, we're describing in very general terms what the scope is.
Mm-hmm.
And while that was available to you in the pub to read from at the public, even then, if you had been aware of it, it wouldn't have been clear, I don't think, that what the impacts to your property would have been.
Right.
But that was out there. But
Well,
I
okay,
understand
so-
where your more information could have been beneficial to you.
So Joe, was there a request from the neighbors that I'm not aware of for this bike path and to enlarge the sidewalks or whatever you're wanting to change? I mean, I think generally street resurfacing is not something I'm aware of or that takes people's property away. So I'm just not sure I'm following why I have to lose so much of my backyard.
Okay, so there's two fronts on this particular point. Number one is we want to upgrade all sidewalk for ADA compliance. That's the Americans with Disability Act, so that people of all abilities can utilize the pedestrian network. So the widening of the sidewalk to 5 feet, that is for ADA compliance, as well as rebuilding it. That is for ADA compliance. So that's something that from the federal level, Department of Justice level, we're required to do on our network. And unfortunately, we're not able to do nearly as much of it as we want to because of funding. In this particular case for this project, we were fortunate that we were able to work it into the funding application to meet those federal requirements. Secondly, the multi-use trail, as I mentioned previously, our council asked us to look at opportunities where there's minimal impacts whenever possible. This was a unique corridor where we were able to actually get an off-street multi-use path installed with, and I know this isn't how you feel on your property, but as these projects go, it is an incredibly minimal impact to the neighborhood and to the how the roadway functions. So it was programmed, and we do see it as a significant benefit. And we were fortunate to be able to include it in our application when we look at the whole picture of where we're able to install such features.
All right. Well, I'm really wanting more information, and I appreciate you telling me some of it here tonight. I would like specifics for my property. I was told a tie wall would go in. I'm worried about a drop. If I have a friend over with children, small children, are they going to fall down that tie wall 6-foot drop?
Mrs. Katz,
Yes.
I give you a little bit of information about your wall. The highest part of your wall, according to our plans, is a little over 2 feet tall, and then it minimizes as you go further up Baxter from the intersection. It's not going to be a 6-foot tall wall, and it is down slope from your house pretty far. I'm not saying that the impact to your property is necessarily minimal, but I think that it will do a lot of good for you to meet with the project representative, and they will help you completely understand everything that's going to be impacted on your property and exactly where everything will be located. And until that time, honestly, I'm an older person, and worrying about things just really takes over. So I think that if you just give it a chance, project rep will be happy to meet with you. They will come out to your property.
Nancy, who are you referring to specifically that is a property manager or project manager?
The project representative on your parcel. If you want to hold on 1 second, I probably can get you that information, but they will contact you and schedule an appointment to come out and meet with you. Of course, social distancing and all, but they can come down in your backyard and describe everything that will happen.
Because I have had people in my backyard and I've asked them questions and they've driven off.
Oh, I think that probably you were seeing the wrong people.
No.
It looks like your project rep is Jeff Hall. And I believe he's already spoken to you momentarily, but he doesn't have all of the information he needs yet. He needs to compile some documents and plan sheets, and he needs the independent fee appraisal, which we don't have at this point. We will have that sometime around.
What is Jeff's contact information, please?
Let me hold on 1 second.
Okay.
314-615-8525.
Is it 314-615-8525?
Yes, ma'am.
That's correct.
Thank you. All right. Well, I think part of it is the surprise factor. I didn't know anybody wanted it since we've all been talking about it and nobody seems to want it. And the second part that I'm frustrated with is the fact that I don't have information. And when I spoke with Adam, he didn't really give me information. When the truck with the county transportation information, I've got their license plate number if you want it. They drove off and wouldn't talk to me when they were out here last week. And then somebody else had dropped off a card to find out how my property was titled so that they could do the appraisal and send it out to the right people. I mean, I've been giving out my good information, accurate information, and I feel like I've got nothing in return. And I'm not quite ready to say anything at this point other than I'm trying to get information, which is why I'm here. And I had trouble logging in. I usually use Zoom, and I wasn't expecting to have to download a different WebEx or whatever this was onto the computer. So I was late to the party. So,
Mrs. Katz, we will get you all of the information. Like I said, it's taking time because there's a process, and Mr. Hall will need to have some documentation together, and he will schedule a meeting and come out and meet with you if that's what you would like, and explain the project in detail, and especially the impact to your property. That is to come.
I would appreciate it. I would appreciate it. And I realize the people across the street from me who may want a bike path and who won't be affected by, the easement. Yeah, they might be more in favor of this than I am, and others who won't be right in the middle of the construction zone.
That's understandable.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Okay. So just to clarify, we have a few more residents on the phone here. Mr. Finley, you're still on the call. Did you have any more questions for us? Mr. Finley? I guess he can't hear us. Let's see. I have a Joanne Teakin. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that. Did you have any more questions for us? I've unmuted you. If you'd like to say anything, we could answer your questions. Okay, I'm not getting anything there either. Okay. Well, I guess, Joe, you want to go ahead and wrap the meeting up? Anything else you want to add here?
No, I want to thank everyone who attended.
Mhm.
And if you have any further questions, be sure to reach out to our team and we will be happy to get back with you. As it is now just coming up on 8 o'clock, we are going to go ahead and end the meeting. Again, thank you for attending and we hope you have a great evening.
Thank you all, and the recording will be posted as soon as it's available, hopefully sometime tomorrow. We'll get that information up as soon as we can. Thank you all.